And for the other side of this, joining us now is Loni Mahanta, the Vice President of Policy Research and Development at Lyft. Loni, great to have you on. What is your response to Assemblywoman Gonzalez's comment and, of course, to the bill?
Hi, thanks for having me. What we're really focusing on here is recognizing how many workers and how many people are using a platform like Lyft in the California economy. We've had nearly 2 million, many millions of people that are both passengers and drivers that are touching the Lyft platform every day. With regard to drivers, we have had several hundred thousand drivers that used the Lyft platform last year. And what we hear from drivers over and over again is that the most important piece of what Lyft offers is the ability to work if and when they want to and whenever they want to. Now, we hear words about flexibility and we talk about that a lot, but the reason we talk about that is because it is really the thing that is the crux of what Lyft offers, that is valuable to the vast majority of people that are driving. So, we've had nearly 90% of drivers drive fewer than 20 hours a week. And that's fundamentally different from the employment opportunities that individuals face and find out in the economy otherwise. So if you look at a Starbucks employee, for instance, they don't get to decide if they're going to work on a Tuesday or come in for an hour and not work later. So what we're trying to do is make sure that we have the opportunity to continue to allow that those opportunities to be flexible and completely within the control of the driver. But what we also want to do is make sure that we're working with policymakers and with labor leaders in the labor movement to create baseline standards that apply to everybody. So we're trying to kind of keep those twin goals alive, and that's really what we're focused on.
How does this in turn impact the experience of passengers that are trying to get a ride from some of the gig economy beneficiaries that are taking advantage of Lyft and your competitor?
Well, I think the passengers are a huge part of this equation. What we're trying to do is make sure that we're continuing to allow a service that provides transportation access to people all around the state, not just in urban centers. So that means that we need to make sure that there are drivers that are available to service places that previously were transportation deserts, and that we continue to be able to create a marketplace that has coverage for all of the state and not just sort of certain pieces of it.
Okay, and there are a lot of people who are looking to get some benefits, right? There are protest caravans now happening across California, marching here, banding together drivers of Uber and of Lyft, and everybody that we've always sort of talked to, drivers-wise, and even in our own personal experiences, no one denies that flexibility is an amazing thing to have in their life when it comes to getting that income. On the other hand, if you are in aggregate working 40 plus hours, sometimes 80 hours, and while it might be flexible, that amounts to a full-time job. Do those drivers then not deserve more support from the platforms themselves when they do dedicate so much of their lives to providing a service?
I think you're one of the things that you're getting to is sort of recognizing the variability of the platform, and people do access and use the Lyft platform in different ways. One of the things that we find, though, in the way that employment law is currently structured, that it's sort of an all or nothing thing. And if you're providing a certain type of benefit that is traditionally viewed as an employment benefit, that's going to sort of suggest that the whole world is employment, the whole population is in that bucket. But what we want to do is be able to create sort of a structure that both allows the continued flexibility and also provides baseline protections, benefits, and avenues for worker voice that apply to everybody. And the benefits and the way protections are sort of given, who gets what, we really think that that is something that should be driven by the drivers. As you think about what the benefits system, the pooled benefits access that we want to provide, in the way that we're thinking about what a solution might look like here, that is something that will be driven, led by the drivers, and drivers thinking about like what are the right ways to provide that to the various different groups.
And nobody can dispute also the economic opportunity that both platforms, Uber and Lyft, and the style of matching work with a worker has freed up and enabled a lot of opportunity. But if you've been looking, also at what's happening with big tech, Congress, they have their eyes now on big services, whether they're digital or not. Do you anticipate any pressure coming from Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. to also now with this vociferous outpouring of these protests that you might have to then deal with regulation coming and enforcing these rules upon you guys?
I think one thing that's really set Lyft apart throughout our history is that we have always worked closely with policymakers. We have been regulated since day one. We can't operate in any locality without working with government to set up the rules to operate. And so working with policymakers is something that is core to who we are and what we always strive to do. And so it's not sort of a foreign concept to us to be working thoughtfully with people that are looking at our business.
In any other industry, if you were an employee and you knew that you could be replaced by some type of autonomous technology, just as we're seeing within the driving and ride-hailing industry right now, and that's being powered forward and invested heavily within, you would see within that industry that employees would start to push back and try to get as much as they could from that employer while they had the time. What makes this a different case?
I think the question around moves to automation and autonomous are things that we're kind of seeing in real time. How quickly autonomous vehicles become a part of the Lyft platform. We're all gonna sort of be seeing that as we go along. But what we do know is that right now ride sharing accounts for only less than 0.5% of all the vehicle miles traveled. So while we are trying to kind of work on getting to a place where Americans don't need to own cars, and that we are adequately thinking about how we can have shared ride services, there's still going to be a need for people driving cars for quite a long time. There's not going to be something that's like an immediate replacement anywhere, and then anywhere that's not on the horizon that we're thinking about here. But to these larger questions, yeah, these are questions that are sort of redounding across the economy, and we, like everybody else, need to be thoughtful about them.
All right, Loni Mahanta, who is the Vice President of Policy Development and Research at Lyft, kind enough to take the time with us here today. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you.